All right. Well, welcome back. And in this episode, we've been discussing leadership. And there's so much as we're getting into this that we're finding about leadership. It's a pretty hefty topic. So in this episode, we'd like to break this down just a little bit and start kind of from a foundational space. And we're just introducing leadership. We've talked a little bit about self-leadership previously, and we want to really get into this through line that's emerging, and that is personal power. Like, that is where it starts. That is where the seed is planted for self-leadership and external leadership. And really getting that foundation in a good spot, really understanding where you are with leadership, like how you're currently leading, how you might want to be leading. And I know that sometimes I have the question of, can leadership be cultivated? Is that something I can build and discover, or is it predetermined? And there's a lot of juice there, but let's just dive into this. I know that there's a lot of thoughts and a lot of conversation around this. So, is there any place any one of you are just burning to start?
I think I think leadership can be cultivated, but you also have your own personal natural style of leadership that you may or may not be aware of because you're surrounded by other people who are very aware of their leadership style, their own personal power, and yours may not be as strong um, compared to other people if you want to do a comparison. And so you may think, oh, I'm not a leader. I can't really do that. Or I love that because they seem so confident and I want to be like that. So in that instance, it's almost like you can cultivate yourself. You can train yourself to be that type of leader. But if it's seems forced, or if other people have, some pushback, then it may not be what's natural to you. It because it's you're looking externally for who you are to determine and describe who you are. So can it be cultivated? Yes. Um, yes. Yes.
It's interesting to hear you say that. What I heard you describing was like the potential, if that's the right word, the potential of being a chameleon,
Hmm.
like shifting to match other people's leadership styles rather than discovering your own. And I actually knew someone like this who they admittedly had said, I am a chameleon. I tend to reflect what other people do. And they didn't have, like, one of their common complaints was they didn't have a great grasp on it. So they didn't have their own personal value system to tie into. They kept tying into everyone else's, but depending on who they were with, that was the value system that they were taking on. And so it made life very unstable for them. So, and this is not my
Hmm.
observation. It was a common complaint of theirs. It was something that they had to work really hard to be very cognizant of.
Is it that they found a problem with it? I mean, because if they do that naturally, matching people's energy, then they may think that, or this person could think, well, I'm like mirroring other people, and that's not good because I don't have my own. But maybe that is actually what they're best at doing, matching that energy, matching their someone's style, but they just don't
I
see it that way.
Yeah.
I just was gonna say, I think it was more they weren't doing it while staying connected to themselves. They had lost their sense of self in it all, and they wanted to be able to find the balance between both. And that's that personal power, right? But what I hear you saying is maybe the personal power was that ability to reflect and to shift um, very quickly with whomever they were with at the time. Sorry, Danny, I
Yeah.
didn't mean to kick you off or
Yeah,
cut you
no,
off.
no. I just like Kim was saying, I think there's high value in mirroring and matching. because that's
Mm,
part of how we learn and take in information and play
mhm,
with and discover maybe what is a match for us or maybe what doesn't resonate.
mhm,
And so I think there is some value in the flexibility and the being able to kind of read the room, so to speak. And you made a good point, and that's kind of where I was going was the inner leader is connected to the value system. And you can stay anchored to that value system as you're developing and exploring in these other arenas. But there's always this anchor to come back to that keeps you centered, present, grounded,
mhm,
if you will, focused
mhm,
a lot of instances. And yeah, it's like it's the core values, the sense of self, a vision, and then making choices based on that. Like I feel
mhm,
a really, really powerful formula for connecting to self. And it's like filling the cup and
mhm.
letting it overflow, letting it spill over so that you're working from a place of being resourced.
My observation from the outside looking in was that she had like her awareness of that even happening and her wanting to stay connected to herself through all of the things that she felt were destabilizing. That was, I thought that was extraordinary. Like you're experiencing all of this and it was unfamiliar to her and she didn't understand why it was happening and yet she was aware I don't feel like myself and I thought that's huge self-awareness. So I appreciate what you're saying in that, and I just also wanted to point out that sometimes we're doing a lot better than we think we are.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I guess I just see the positive aspect of what you were saying, what she
Hmm.
was saying and noticing about
Hmm.
her. It's like because, society and what we grow up with is saying, oh, well, this is what XYZ looks like. And we're not giving the alternatives. We're, at least not initially. We are told in school this is what we should do, how it should be. And that's kind of what we build our life, build our personality around. And it's only until we get older that we realize, oh, this isn't quite me. Or, I'm stronger in this, but someone doesn't like that. And, you throughout your life as you age, you do find your personal power. You have your leadership style.
Mm, good point.
And it's like, but you may or may not have someone to support you or to acknowledge this is what you're good at. This
Hmm.
is who you are, who you show at, everyone else. And if you're fighting that internally, then that's a whole separate conversation. What are you
Hmm.
fighting?
Really, really good question.
I wonder if some of that resistance doesn't come from kind of the should aspects of how I
Mm,
should act and behave, or those truly aligned aspects that are that are natural and organic for you.
Mhm.
hmm.
And so I'm wondering, definitely a life experience, right? Just the whole ins and outs of it all, experiencing what works, what doesn't work, what feels good, what doesn't. In terms of that personal power and that inner leader, like what is it?
Mm,
How do you know that that's like, yes, this is genuine and authentic? Or are you tasking or doing something external to prove that you're good?
mm. Hustling.
Hustling, yeah.
So the proving part really stands out to me. Like if you're acting a certain way, if you're trying to be a certain way to prove to others that you're capable, I mean, there's degrees to all of that, but how do you know if I would say if you feel like you're pushing, if you feel like you're forcing it, and because either that's what someone needs or these groups need, but it is so unnatural. It's like you got this itch and not a good itch. It's like, okay, this is an itch you can't really reach on your back. I don't know, but it's just like, yeah, this isn't it. And so I think naturally you will shift. But for me, I would say I would know. which type of leadership style I move into, I shift to and from, depends on the situation. I can think of a situation where nothing was moving, nothing was happening. It was kind of stalling, and it was just like, okay, no one is, I'm waiting for someone to jump up and take the lead. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to, speak up or try to guide them. So it wasn't like I'm taking control of everything, but it's like at that point, they needed someone to guide them out of this stuckness, this spot where it's like, we don't know what to do. So it's not this authoritarian, do as I say type of thing, but um, it's like, okay, I'll do this. I'll step into the spotlight just a little bit and for a very short time, and then someone else take over because that is not my role. And then other times I may just be more there. I think most times I'm there to again act as a guide, but on the um kind of out of the spotlight. Just allow people to come to me with any questions or if they are seeking advice or just kind of they're talking and sharing and I can just be me and that's what I offer them. So whatever type of leadership style that is, whatever that's my power that I have learned over the years that works best for me. So I can see where it shifts and where I put myself into a position and then willingly and consciously take myself out of it.
I mean, I know I talk about this all the time, so I sound like a broken record, I feel like, but it's like there's a frequency within me that I know is mine. Like I know it. And it's it's like when something resonates with that or it harmonizes with that frequency and I feel like and I it feels expansive. So there's that. And so when I was thinking about this in terms of leadership, I realized last night when I was doing my, little bit of homework on this episode today, I was realizing that depending on the capacity that I had at the time and what was going on, really determined the kind of leader that I showed up as. If I noticed that there was a lot of opportunity to be up at the front and leading a discussion or a meeting or um, I don't know, just or I had a microphone in my hand, whatever. Like that is when I noticed um, those opportunities connecting with me, but it was because I built the capacity for it, and it wasn't always easy, but there's also other times when I needed to my capacity was life was requiring less of me, and so my capacity didn't have to be quite as great, if that makes any sense. So I could take more of a back seat, and that also resonated. Those kinds of experiences felt very authentic to me, and it was like, oh my gosh, yes, let someone else be up there at the front. This is nice. I'll enjoy this one. The resonant is I would just describe it as a frequency. It's a frequency and it feels very expansive. It feels like stepping into a room, but that room feels like a whole new world, you know, like, this feels like possibilities.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking about this, and what's coming up is that there was a time in my life where I was very all about, like, in my 20s, very about like leadership and winning friends and influencing people and like all, the things and that very, and just thinking about it, it feels very harsh to me. It feels very strong and
There's
masculine.
a strong drive to it.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
driven. I was very organized and very like rigid in my thinking and my actions. Like, no, it has to look like this. Here are time frames. And especially raising four boys, it's like, oh, I felt like that structure was like perfect. Let's keep every our little ducks in line and let's yada yada. And in my parenting, I found that I kind of had that edge around leadership, if you will, from a completely, I love these balloons, from a completely actually fear-based place because I wanted these little humans to survive and be good people. And I wanted the household to run efficiently and all of the things. And it tanked me. Like over time, and looking back, I can feel like that heaviness and that drive and that energy just being blasted out. And now I know that contrast. And so now instead of having that drive, that like Tony Robbins go kind of thing, it's more like pausing into it, resting into it. The resonance for me is actually a more calm, like you said, expansive feeling that feels like a humming,
Hmm.
harmonizing frequency versus like, oh, we got to get the things, go, go. Like it's just, even talking about it is exhausting. And so I've definitely identified myself having different strategies of leadership in different areas because like at work in that same period of time, I was like uh middle management, like a liaison. So I was like, this person in the trenches doing the thing, and yet I was bridging up to management about what the concerns are and what the things that we need are and trying to keep two sides happy. And
Mm.
that is a very different energy, right? And then if I'm in a teaching or facilitating place, it's very much guidance. It's very much leaving things open, that possibility, um, leader by letting people experience themselves, I guess. So I'm just seeing all these different ways of leadership that I've experienced and leaned into, and the ones that feel aligned and the ones that don't. And it's definitely the more grounded, coming from my personal power. Because
Yeah,
I don't have to push when I'm there.
yeah, as you were talking, I was envisioning like you tapping into your authenticity and how that is that drive that creates that drive, right? And but the other thought that I was having too was leadership is like it's effective when it's inspiring. Like we're using the example of, and I've got 6 kids. I remember very well those days where it was like, everyone just follow my orders because that's the kind of day we're having. And but on the days when I would inspire them, my kids, with either like at the end of the day, we've got this going on, or we're trying, remember, this is what we're working toward, or um, let's try and I don't, I can't think of anything specific other than there was an attitude of inspiring them to do something more than what we were, rather than just following orders. And that's not, I don't find that to be inspiring at all. And I think that's part of what creates that burnout in someone when you are just sticking to a routine and you're just, I got to do this and this and this and this. And there's nothing really that feels inspiring about it, nothing expansive, no vision connected to that. I think that can be very, very draining because you're not tapping into your authenticity, and before you can lead others, you've got to be able to lead yourself. We've talked a lot about that.
Yeah, and I think the vision is important too, because that
Hmm.
is what inspires you, right? It's what moves you forward. It's what brings the breath in. It's what creates life and vitality and motion.
Hmm.
And it's like the carrot, if you will. It's like the thing that you're
Hmm.
focused on.
Hmm.
And again, anchored too to help you move
Yeah.
through.
And it's contagious. People can feel it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I used to get so upset when I was younger. There was this little gal. Well, it happened a lot. There would be I'd create something or whatever, and I've always been kind of an individual, like here's a unique perspective or thing kind of person. And then someone would copy me. And this particular girl, I remember, she copied like how I dressed, how I talked, the things that I did. I'm like, what are you, my little clone? And I found myself getting so irritated, and I was chatting with my mom about it. I was probably 14-ish or so.
Mm.
And I'm like, why? What is this? This is so stupid. I don't want to play with her anymore, kind of thing. And she's like, Danny, copying is like the best compliment you can get. That means someone is seeing you, someone is feeling that energy. You're creating something that's inspiring to someone. And from that day forward, I looked at that situation and that behavior completely different and realized, wow, I could possibly be in a space where I am inspiring someone and I don't even know it. And it's usually when I'm in my personal power and I'm tied to that authenticity for myself because you know when someone is in that space, you can feel it.
Yeah, I would use the word sobering. Like when you connect to the responsibility that kind of comes with that,
Yeah.
where you're like, I have, there is the potential of influencing another person in the way that they think and the things that they feel drawn to do just by what I'm doing and my attitude towards things. That, and like when you feel that, at least for me, when I have felt that deeply, it has been somewhat sobering at times. Like there's other times where I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. And then there's other times where there's just like this deep inner, like, Dory, you know, like pay attention to what you're doing. Pay attention to yourself. People are noticing, you know, and I find that those, for me personally, those are times when I don't want to say it necessarily like it matters, but I don't know. I don't know if that's like the universe talking or what, but there is just this like reverence that I feel come over me where it's like it's important that I'm really anchored in and showing up as me right now in the best way that I know how, you know.
Yeah, there's been a lot of times over the years that someone said, "Oh, you said something and this is how it influenced me," or if you
Mhm.
could do it, I can do it. And I thought, "Oh my gosh, I struggled with that, right? These conditioning pieces where it's like, oh, you're not that important. Why would anybody want to? And then at the same time, like really taking that in and maybe responsibility isn't the right word, but taking responsibility for myself and knowing and understanding that when I do connect to myself, it is so powerful.
Mhm.
I don't have to do anything. I don't have to be, it's not an ego thing. It's not if I'm so important kind of thing. It's like, I'm standing in that space and that is resonating outward. And sometimes there's been this big pressure around that, like, whoa, I gotta hide and stay small when I'm not feeling my best, or I'm not able to, really connect to that as deeply. And also, those are moments that need to be shared too.
I have this way of when I'm not grounded, I can come off very dismissive to people. And I think that that's what as you were talking, I was like, that's what it is. It's like this, there's someone in this space who, like, don't be dismissive, like, be genuine right now. And I can feel it. I can really, really feel it. But in that, it's like you're holding space. I don't know how to explain it, but it's not, I don't feel this responsibility for the space. I just feel like um, it's important that I show up, however that is. So, anyways, Kim, you've been really quiet.
Yeah, I wanted to hear about actually, you have this framework and flow into tapping into your power, the 4 A's framework. Would you bring that in here and talk about it a little bit?
So, yes, the 4A's framework is basically about creating sovereignty. It's an extension of design sovereignty. So for me, it's using human design and this 4A's framework to become design sovereign. But the 4A's is basically saying the first A is authenticity. The second one is authority. The third is autonomy, and the fourth is agency or personal agency. And it's kind of what we were talking about, like the flow where you have your leadership style, for example, we have recognition or recognize it, own it, embody it, and then act on it. So they line up perfectly to my four A's. So when you're looking at trying to figure out who you are, or you're trying to reconnect with yourself, minus all of the conditioning and programming and expectations that other people expect from you and you expect from other people, you're really building up your authenticity. You're rediscovering yourself, minus all of the distractions. And that's essentially is recognizing your power. Like, who am I? And then once you can see it, you have to own it, and that's where you're making your aligned decisions, not based on anyone else. You're based on just your inner authority. That's where your authority is. It's not someone else's decision. It's yours, and you feel comfortable with that. And it's a very strong and confident part of you. And then once you do that, and it's not like a one and done because you can get it and then lose it and get it again or it can, kind of go in waves.
It comes
But
and goes.
yeah, because of different situations, different people, how you're feeling each day. And then you want to have this autonomy. You want to learn to embody it. You're like, I'm making these decisions. Um, they're my decisions, and I'm going to stand in that. It's like the first part, authenticity and authority, is owning the power to know yourself. And then the second part, autonomy and agency, is holding that power to change or reframe your life, your story, and what you put out there for yourself and other people. But autonomy is owning who you are, owning the decision, standing behind it. And if someone doesn't like it, then it's like, okay, do you trust yourself? That's kind of what you have to do. It's a lot of self-trust. And as you're going through that, the last part is agency. It's moving, it's following through, and it's kind of like you look at it as like a table with four legs. You take one, it still stands. You take one away, it still stands up, but it's very wobbly. So you need all four to be very strong and sturdy and locked in so that you have this personal sovereignty. And when you have that agency, when you have that personal agency, you're acting on it, you have that autonomy, you're embodying it. When you have your authority, then you're owning who you are. And it all comes back to authenticity. Because without first knowing who you are, you're not going to have the rest. And so that's kind of how I see just being sovereign, learning how to become sovereign and owning your power. That's how I break it up in kind of two categories, but one framework.
I love the simplicity of that. I
Hmm.
really, really do. It's easy, it's simple, and it's really, really powerful.
And it's something that I think we do anyway,
Hmm.
but it's in a framework. I mean, we can see, oh, okay, this is how it moves. You can start anywhere, but
Hmm.
I can say, oh, I'm going to embody my authority, not my autonomy.
Hmm.
But if you don't know who you are, what are you embodying? If you're not making your
Yeah.
decisions, if you're not listening to your body, if you're going by the brain, if you're in this cave and going, oh, I'm all in my head and your head's making the decisions, but you're not listening to that gut instinct and it's like, are you really you're strengthening
Hmm.
your authority? No.
Yeah. So oh man, I just love this topic. My question, since we're talking about leadership, is like, what's the connection? I'm asking you, Kim, like, what's the connection you make all the things you're talking about, what's the connection you make from this to leadership?
Well, I would start with authenticity. Um, Because if you don't know or have any idea who you are, or if you believe you should be a certain person, then your style of leadership will change. Or you may feel like you don't have that you're not a leader because
Mm.
you're only looking outward. You haven't looked at yourself. And, we were talking earlier about a friend of yours, and she was like, oh, well, I'm mirroring other people. But in her mind, that wasn't a good thing. I see that as that's likely her power, her personal power, her superpower, where she can see people and reflect back. And,
Mm.
it's kind of like if someone doesn't, like, for example, if she were to mirror somebody and they take offense, they're like, oh my gosh, why are you like that? What it's saying is you don't like what that person is receiving, but that's what that person's giving out. So it is your friend's superpower to hold up that mirror to someone else, to society, to the world. Kind of reminds me of a reflector. But
It's really interesting that you say that. And not that I think that this is what she should have done, but as I was listening to you, and thinking about that, um, that for lack of a better phrasing here, like that power that she wields, right? Um, she could reflect back to people the worst of themselves, or she could reflect back to them the best of themselves. Like, and that is a choice, right?
yeah, yeah,
And yet, in order to do that, it would make sense. I shouldn't say she needs to, but it would make sense that she would need to identify the best of herself
hmm
and also maybe be aware of the the worst of herself, and I think we all have that ability to reflect back to people, but this was like something she did without even trying,
yeah.
so
And I know
it's an
I
interesting
said
thought.
reflector. Yeah, I said reflector, but it also makes me think of someone who has
Hmm.
an open or undefined identity center. They always do
Mm,
that. A lot of people may feel like, I don't know who I am, or I need to be somebody. I need to have a purpose, and I have an identity. And because that's what society really tells us. Who are you? What are you going to do in this
hmm
life? And of course, it doesn't take into consideration human design. I mean, whatever. But people who feel like they are lost because they don't represent what is already put out there, the narrative that's put out there, they feel bad about themselves. So they don't see their own
mm,
power. And then they try to be like other people, and that is inauthentic. But also, I would say if someone's doing that, then we give them the grace to kind of figure it out, to say, okay,
mm,
well, let me try this, let me try that. I mean, I did that. I have a defined G, but when I was younger, I was like, let me try this, let me try this, let me try this personality. It was the weirdest thing, and it did not last very long. Like,
hmm
I don't even know how long it lasted, but I
Yeah,
always
I
went,
call that trying it on for size.
yeah.
Yeah.
It just like I just ended up going back to who I was.
Isn't that crazy how we just kind of come full
Circle back
circle?
around.
Yeah,
hmm
and like what I was hearing in that was there's there's a human instinct for purpose and belonging.
Mm,
And I think the itch gets scratched when you go inside and you explore there. Because when I keep saying this, when you can attach to that, that is what like is the ember. It's what
hmm
keeps it going
mm,
and can expand into something
Yeah.
bigger. And that I think is where when you're attached to that and there's that desire and it's moving, that's what kind of leads you into the leadership style you have,
hmm
right? Like almost
hmm
organically. It's like water. It's just kind of like here you are. And what an adventure. What a
Yeah.
adventure.
We've
hmm
talked in this, like outside of this episode here, we've talked about how we call that the inner leader and really getting connected to that inner leader within us, to help guide us through, you know, our journeys that only we can take. Yeah.
hmm
I love this. There's so much more to come, but I'm so excited. We're introducing this and we're getting into
Hmm.
it and unraveling it a little bit. So, ladies, as we wrap up, is there any final thoughts or words you would like to leave here?
Um, Start to find ways to own your power, to recognize it. Really think about who you are and why you are. Then don't dismiss anything. Don't just be like, oh, well, I do this because so and so does it. Explore that.
What is the phrase that you say all the time, Kim? You said you got it from one of your clients. I love it. It just is such a powerful thought.
Oh, the about the power.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah, I had a client a while ago, and she had said something, and it made me think of basically what I was saying. So, own the power to know yourself, and then hold that power to change your life. So, two parts. First, you got to know yourself. You have to know who you are and why you're like that. You have to really explore everything about you because what you think could be, because of someone else, really could just be who you are. And it's how you were designed. It's how what you came into this world to do and to be. So that's it.
Very powerful. Yeah. And I
Mhm.
would say there's so much in remembering who we are. It's funny that full circle thing, right? And just to
Hmm.
remember and take pause and really sit with that and become familiar with it. There's really a lot of magic
Yeah.
in that. So,
Yep.
yeah. All right. Well, looking forward to chatting with you all again. We will say goodbye for now, and hopefully there's some seeds that have been planted that will grow.